Alkalise to Realise talk show. It's Fabian the Upgrade Man. Today we have a special. We have Tony Sayers on the show. We've been looking forward to this for quite a while. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hi, mate. How you doing? Good to be on. We finally made it.
Very good. Very good. I know a lot of your work that you've been doing over the years with the Chakra Overlays, and, you know, you've been actually sort of coaching people, etc., in that area, you know, which has been really sort of big for yourself, hasn't it, really? Because it kind of blew up quite well, didn't it, that?
Yeah. I mean, my work just completely did a 360, because I started off, you know, really much in the conspiracy realms, and then I went into more like natural law, and I kind of thought that the solution was maybe just in the fact that we perhaps hadn't behaved too well as a race of beings, and this was kind of like a karmic consequence. And so I spent a few years studying, you know, spiritual laws and Mark Passio stuff and things like that. And then it just turned 360, because I put a video out about the military and that went viral, questioning what they do, and I had I had a lot of attacks, death threats, things like that in my inbox, and I ended up walking around in an energetic soup for what seemed like months, and I tried everything to come out of it, meditations, detoxing, and nothing worked. And then one day someone contacted me, one of my friends, she's a really good energy healer, and she said, look, I'm finding this information out, it's about the chakras being a part of the manipulation, how entities are using them to lock into us and feed on and drain on our emotions. And something in me just clicked, plus the fact I was desperate. I would have tried everything at the time. Wow. And anyway, so I went through this process, and the next day I felt liberated, my energy was good. And so then I thought, well, you know, there's something in it. I need to learn how to do it, and I need to let other people know that perhaps what we've been taught about the chakras isn't quite true. And you know, it's just gone on from there into implants, alien implants, and psychic attacks, and it's just my work's gone completely metaphysical in the space of 2 or 3 years. So and it did all blow up at one point. There's a lot of resistance about it, understandably, because people have a lot of affinity to chakras. You know, it's heavily propagated into the New Age movement. And the funny thing is the chakras are just such a small part of the manipulation, but everyone focuses on that. So, it's been a journey, and one that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting to head in this direction, but it's kind of where the universe has taken me. And now I'm kind of like digging out the darkness of the metaphysical and exposing it and trying to transcend it by facing it and encouraging others to look at it as well.
Yeah. See, one of the main factors is that people are blind. They're technically blind with dualistic eyes, really, I'd say. You know, only able to see a very small amount of what there is to see. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not taught at school. We're not taught about energy. We're taught that human beings are the only things that exist. We're out here on our own, and there's nothing else out there. When in actual fact, you know, as you say, and I'm sure you're fully aware of how this really works, but we're basically tuned into a radio station which is 3D, and in the same space we have 4D, 5D, you know, and other dimensions existing in the same place, which is actually teeming with life. Now the misconception is, and this is where my work really comes in, is that people are going out into 4D. Psychedelics are being heavily propagated, and all this stuff, travel and everything like that. Where I'm coming from is I'm saying, well, look, you know, through the work that I do, 4D isn't all that it's cracked up to be. There's a lot of fakers, a lot of false white light beings posing as angels and demigods, and you know what they called ascended masters and things like that. And people are giving their energy and power away to just another level of manipulation.
Veils.
Yeah, so where we're being deceived in 3D through politicians and, you know, making promises and pretending to be something they're not, the same is applying in 4D, where people are going out giving their energy away to really just another form of energy harvest. So it's as above, so below. You know, the whole reality is based on deception. And I think what's happening now is they've given this version of spirituality, which we know a lot of it is actually Luciferian teachings. And there has to be like kind of awakening from the awakening, because this awakening has led people to believe that they're more than human and spiritual, which is great, but there's another cul-de-sac that people are getting stuck into. So I guess I'm in that realm of exposing that that second cul-de-sac, which there's a lot to do.
Yeah, I'd say that's what I'd call that a right hemisphere imbalance.
Yeah,
from an occult perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem is that so many people are traumatized. You know, we've all got our stories from school and from childhood, and so you can understand why people want to get out of their head. They want to, you know, I can understand why people want to look at angels and archangels and all this, because, you know, it's a tough place, Earth, and people understandably want to escape from that. So what the New Age does cleverly is it taps into people's want of escapism, and, you know, it makes all these things sound really beautiful and brilliant. And of course, you know, it's not always like that. And yeah, people are running to these things because they've got traumatized childhood wounds, and then, you know, the New Age basically tells them that, you know, just think love and happiness and it's all going to go away. And of course we know that's not true. So
yeah, it's like that. There's a lot of programs like that. I work on something with Soulless Beings, we tend to say, but there's a lot of programs where even with something say as the ego, there's a lot of people that would go around and they would be prejudging people, saying, oh, it's your ego that's it, but they don't actually know the true concept of what the ego actually really is, you know. And because of that sort of thing, it just creates like a facade and another veil of illusion, and it's just, we don't get anywhere through it.
Yeah, well, there's two things that you mentioned there that I just would like to pick up on. And the first thing is this idea that we shouldn't judge, you know. Any society that's going to be a strong, thriving society should be judging the behavior of what people are doing. It doesn't mean like individually, like checking what people are doing all the time. But if we see that there's something wrong, then we should be calling it out. And then, like you say, when you start calling things out in the New Age realms, you get told that you shouldn't judge. So immediately it shut down debate and stops the conversation. But in actual fact, when you look at you know, the true spiritual teachers of our times, in terms of the Native Americans and people like that, they look at 7 generations ahead. That they look at their society in that present day, and they look at how what they're doing is going to either benefit or not the next 7 generations. So they do judge. And so there's a whole misconception thrown out there in that realm about, you know, we should never call anything out. But also, as you mentioned there, the ego, you know, we're told in the New Age that we should destroy the ego. Well, you know, a healthy ego is good. You know, we need to survive in this reality. Obviously, you don't want to be stuck in the ego completely. But, you know, if without the ego, where would the creativity, the want to create music, to
and that's where the confusion comes in, because what a lot of people don't realize is it's the false ego. It's not actually your true ego relies with your true identity, which is your core soul essence. You have to have that individuation. You have to have that individuation. And that's where that other confusion comes into play, exactly what you're saying, where people think, oh, no, we don't need an ego at all. No, it's the false ego that is aligned with the dead persona, which is aligned with the artificial construct that you've been living in. That's what needs to be nullified.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problems when the ego's out of control, it normally stems from some kind of childhood wound where, you know, it's a projection and it gets completely imbalanced. But I think to have a healthy ego in this world is entirely necessary. But wouldn't it be a bloody boring world if we didn't have egos? Do you know what I mean? If everyone,
As long as
if
it's aligned
everyone
with
was,
the right cause. Yeah. As long as it's not
yeah,
causing, you know.
yeah, as long as it's not causing harm, of course.
Yeah.
But part of what we're here to do is express our true nature.
We
And
have to
yeah,
have individuation. Definitely.
we're all connected on one level, but on another level, we all have our own gifts that we're here to express, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's just another way. I mean, the New Age is so clever when I look at it, and I've spent years now like studying the deceptions. It always fascinates me how genius whoever it was who created it. And I know there was probably more than one person. You look at Helena Blavatsky,
Yeah.
but going beyond her, how they tie it into people's wounds and wants, and the general human nature to want everything to feel good, and truth doesn't always feel good, as we know. And that's why when you call things out, sometimes you get told don't be negative, because we want truth to feel good, and of course it's not the case. And the New Age really ties into all those blind spots that we have as a species.
Yeah, this is the thing. And then there's so many multiple layers as well at the same time, because there's a mass of people out there that refuse to accept that they are not just aligned with just the material matter. They're not. That is one of the main issues, and that's what that false ego does do, though. It does stop those people from even looking at the core of who they are, and then people project from a shadow aspect because of that as well. They never look at themselves. They're always projecting it outwards at others, which is the prejudging again. They never look at the actual self, and that's why we have this scenario where we're being fed upon, etc. On our lower emotions, because we don't want to face them, and let them come to the forefront. But that would be that middle path, rather than that imbalanced right hand path, which is totally extent. I'm going to this planet and that planet, etc. Or the left hand side, which is just totally logic and analytic, and will just not take any type of intuition or anything at all. There's that massive internal battle and war happening.
Yeah, and it's so multifaceted. I mean, the points you brought up there about the left and the right brain imbalance are critical, but also, as you also touched on, when we talk about, what do you call them? You call them soulless beings, don't you?
Beings,
so soulless beings, or however you want to word them, or hosted as maybe what I use, whereby you also have the Agent Smith programming running through that person, because we actually have implants, etheric implants that kind of kick in when someone questions the matrix. So you have that going on, and then you also have people's entities, because it's not just the elite that can have that can be hosted. There's normal people that can be hosted. When we open up to drugs, alcohol, anything like that, we can open a gateway, a portal where these entities can come in and interface with us and start running the show and calling the shots in a person. And I actually go as far as if you see that video, where I actually think things like schizophrenia, maybe even murderous to some case. And I'm not excusing what they do and saying it's all entity attachment, but when you see these people in videos, because this is what I do, I work with people and remove this stuff. You can see the thing in them. You can. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul.
And
if you look at the picture of the Queen and other, you can see these things working through people, and it might not be their fault, or they might not be aware, but if someone's had a drug habit, or heavy on alcohol, or they've had an extreme trauma, that's when these things can get in, start calling the shots. So we're actually, I think the likes of David Icke have done great work in terms of exposing the top, the elite as having stuff working through them. And perhaps that is a reptilian kind of consciousness, but what I'm saying is that it's not just the elite. There's normal humans that are also being hosted, not or possessed, if you like, and not even just by entities. There's AI possession going on with the nanotech, the nanobots, the nanites, where it's latching onto the brain neurons, controlling the thoughts, also latching onto sexual organs, which is also controlling people's sexual and causing infertility. So it's when you look at it like that, it can seem quite dark, but if you flip it on its head and say, well, you know, all these things are trying to siphon our energy, that means that we are massively powerful.
I was just going to say, to just to quickly cut in there, there's an occult practice which is called scrying, and I always say, from that metaphysical level, because I do a lot of metaphysical work myself over a long period of time. So we don't realize a human being is like a storybook. So you say it's a window to the soul. And through the art of scrying, you can actually stare into a mirror with the candlelight, with that organic light. And if you have if you can create the right energy with the right individuals to do it, people can come up through your face anyway. Any human being has that ability, so we can be manipulated. And people don't want to face the fact that you can be in a family of people, and majority of the people that you see are actually running under artificial constructs. They are soulless. They are soulless beings, and that's why they cannot activate the spirit soul. We are in this situation because that is what they're aligned with. Like it's like a binary code system, because it's based on electromagnetics, because we're in an electromagnetic realm and a magnetic field. So that enables a transverse way, which is just based on material, to actually run through some people. And then obviously all the technology that happens on a metaphysical level at the same time just enables that to take place really, really easily. And I think that with what you're saying and through my own research and what I know, it's something that we even souls do kind of subconsciously kind of reject it, even though we know that you can see it's not right. Like if you look at a government scenario, for example, you can see that is actually a real program that is just continuously running, even though it doesn't work. So it's not actually a natural scenario within nature to see. It's not. It is a program. Everything's a program, and you know, we're basically walking computers. So you know, it's like when I search for a lot of these implants, you're just looking at how a computer works, and then you're finding the similar kind of things. I mean, yesterday, frequency modulator device. You know, that's something that they're using with the Wi-Fi. Well, that's something that's in 4D as well. See, the interesting thing about this is that what is manifesting now in 3D is already in 4D. So, for example, let me just use, so one of the implants is an amplifier. So what it does is, so the matrix kind of knows us better than we know ourselves, and it hones in on our subconscious wounding. So if you have a subconscious wound, just say of not feeling good enough or not feeling worthy, then these amplifiers have a way to just kind of turn the volume up on that. So it becomes a loop, becomes and what does that do? That generates low vibrational thoughts, which then provides more food. So amplifiers, things like the Bluetooth, which has been here manifesting in 3D now for probably about 20 years, but that's also there in 4D. You know, all these kind of devices that are now filtering down the microchips and everything like that, those implants already exist in 4D. And that's what part of my work is you know, finding these things and removing them. And it's real. It really is as above, so below in that sense. In every sense, I would agree there. And that's why we're seeing this massive influx now with the AI, for that reason, because what I was talking about with that electrical transverse wave, it's like a hive mind, you know, I would say run by a darker entity that is disconnected, etc. You know, so for the demiurge agnostic perspective, so that doesn't have that empathy or compassion or love anyway. So you know what I mean. So they're aligned with that, and if you align with that, it progresses. So the way I see it, so the AI, because it doesn't have that, it's always going to be in a state of imperfection because it's working, it's finite matter, it's time. It's finite. So if you align with it, it's just you're gonna degenerate. So what we see, the AI, like all the technology that we see, it's creating a degeneration to organic life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's a total, direct opposition to it.
I actually wrote a blog this morning about the metaphysical connotations of 5G, because obviously there's a lot of people talking about the physical problems that it's going to cause, which is great. But when we look at 5G on a metaphysical level, it ties in with what you're saying there, partly at least, because what it's doing is it's distorting the energetic magnetic field around the planet.
That's right.
And it's caused like a negative schism in it. And basically, the whole planet's being radiated because these entities, these energies that are interfacing with human vessels, they need low vibrational energy to be able to do that. And they've known these times are coming for a long time where humans are going to start to raise in frequency and raise their consciousness. So this 5G is kind of like their protection. So as we raise in consciousness, because the planet's going to be surrounded in 5G, they're still going to be able to do what they do and shapeshift and stuff like that. So they need a very dense kind of reality to survive. And obviously they're very scared because we are, although it might not seem like it on the surface sometimes, we are raising in consciousness.
Yes, we are.
We are, and I think it's always the go-to solution, because as bad as it seems, and sometimes it can seem very bad, I think the solution is once we raise our consciousness enough, I think, these things will just fall away and cease to exist. In the end, we might have a battle to get there in the next few years, but that really is what it's about. The 5G.
Definitely. I've seen a lot as well. I've done a lot of research into looking at a lot of remote viewers and stuff. And some of them where they've done experimentations on where, whilst they've been able to perform the remote viewing activities, they're able to connect directly with the external biomagnetic field. And they notice like a 7 hertz frequency that they match with, which is like the human resonance, for example, So it's vital. So which is what we're saying. So a disruption to that external biomagnetic field, and also each individual biomagnetic field at the same time would, with what you're saying, makes a lot of sense, because then that does, enable them to continue to do what they need to do and have that upper hand in that scenario. But you were saying that once we connect to that biomagnetic field, obviously it's like a universal mind, like a highway connected to all things then. So we can, there is no sort of hiding anything from anyone, because we become illiterate then, because our hippocampus, it comes online and we get this super advanced memory. So a telepathy and clairvoyance and everything just kicks into play.
Yeah, exactly. But what's interesting, it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because AI is trying to mimic the same thing. I don't know how much you've looked into this, but AI in 3D, and I'm sure it's in 4D as well, they have this thing called singularity.net.
Yes,
and this is where where all the AIs around the world, so all the computers, everything technological, they're always, machine learning is going on all the time. And so instead of being like individual units of learning, it's everything that the AI is doing, it's all going to be connected, and it's going to go into one big brain. Okay, so the AI is going to advance very, very quickly because they're all working together.
Yeah.
And so, and what you just said there is we have the flip side. We have the human, the one big human brain, where
singularity,
as we are raising our own consciousness. So we almost have this race going on. Of
two timelines.
Of like our brain getting bigger consciously, and then this AI
at the
brain
same time
as well, and it's like a race to the post. So
exactly,
it's really fascinating, and
it's fascinating.
A good way of seeing trends is to always look at that universal law of as above, so below.
Yeah,
because
and
it exists.
and as within, so without, both concepts. But it's very interesting that you've come on. We've both got probably working in two different areas, etc. Then we've come on the show, and we've just gone to the exact same scenario, the exact same event that is coming.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It's crazy when you talk about it. If someone tunes in, I think my family got us talking about a giant human brain now. But
it's mental. Yeah,
it is that, and I think it's very interesting times, and as dark as some of it is, I think they are panicking. I think what we're seeing really is evil in its final death throes. And so on the surface, at least, things are getting quite hectic. But I think underneath it all, and where I'm looking energetically, I know these things are scared. I get attacked in my dreams enough to know that. Pinned down in my dreams and psychic attacks and all that stuff. So there's a lot for them to be worried about, and I think we just have to approach it with courage, and and I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. And it's crazy to even think, like you were saying there, in dream state, and the fact that it can happen in the physical as well. What people sometimes think they see, this alien craft and stuff like that. It's just demons that they're able to just appear, and take any form within a period of time. Because it's happened to myself, so I know full well about possession.
Someone like you will be targeted in that realm.
It's happened to me before.
Look at the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, it's happened in this realm a long time ago.
I work with a lot of people that have, they've had dreams where they've been taken on board spaceships, and they're laying on the table and being experimented and implanted, and there's a lot of targeted individuals out there at the moment. And these people, a lot of them are, I don't know if you've heard me talk about human and non-human souls, but at the moment we have two types of souls that are incarnated here. So we have human souls that are been stuck on this soul mill where they're dying, they're being shown false white light, they're being led by a false white light being into having a life review where they're sat down and told, well, you were a good person, but in 1984 you hurt this person, in 1986 you hurt that person, so you're going to have to go back down and do it all again, and then then you won't have to go to hell. And so the humans, being ignorant, because ignorance doesn't die when you die,
never dies.
And because humans have empathy, they agree to it, so they're being sent back down to live another lifetime on planet Crazy. So you have the human souls, and these souls are, because they've been incarnated. See, reincarnation is not what we think. Reincarnation is just the soul mill. So humans are coming round and round and round, and they're living lifetime after lifetime of wars, poverty, scarcity, trauma. So their psychic abilities, their connection to their hearts are often very, very beaten down, and they've forgotten who they are. And at the same time as you've got the human souls, you've got the non-human souls that have come down here. They've volunteered to come and help at this time, and so they're coming here a lot more connected to their psychic abilities, to their heart. They kind of just get this work, whereas a human soul will just be a lot of resistance to it. And a lot of the non-human souls are sadly very targeted because of their gifts, because they bring down this heightened awareness. So many of these non-human souls can have very traumatic, difficult upbringings, very difficult starts in life. There's even birth bumping going on, whereby this matrix has a way of the astrological signs are basically barcodes. And so they see what barcode you are, what kind of soul you're going to be coming into the body. You choose your family on a soul level, and then they have the ability at the last minute to bump the soul into a dysfunctional family, whereby that person experiences, perhaps abuse, trauma, and so then they may end up turning to drugs or alcohol, and so they never end up living their true path, because it's very sad what's going on, but I forgot where I was going with that anyway, but I just wanted to explain that concept to you.
Yeah, I know that concept as well. I do that. And then that explains the mega confusion. And then you're in the mire as well, which is an illusion, you know, and it's the way we see it, it's reflecting back at the soul as well, because then the soul's got lessons to learn at the same time as well. And there's like a purging that's happening. And then there's the illusion of duality on top of that, you know, because it's like a checkerboard, actually, it's that Masonic checkerboard floor anyway, you know, and then there's total fragmentation, like an MK Ultra victim. So we're all having that. And then there's this energy extraction matrix where entities are feeding off of it as well. So it's a minefield.
It is a minefield, but it's just having that mindset of, I mean, never more have I known how powerful we are when I started coming across this work. And sometimes people get a bit fearful about it, and you know, when we're so much more powerful than these things, especially if we come together. If we can stop giving in to the divide and conquer that's laid out everywhere around us, then you know, it's game over. But we never seem to learn the lessons of that, and you know, we're always fighting against each other, and you know, it's that's the problem. We need to be more together in that sense.
Definitely, but that's where that individuation comes in. Like I say, when people become self-realized and realize they're not of this construct, which is what we're speaking about, and there are higher planes of existence and being, there's an astral plane, etc., and we can break free of that. Once you activate your true soul code core essence anyway, then you can start to manipulate this physical reality on your own, as your own path as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. We are all we've ever been waiting for, aren't we? Definitely, we're super.
I mean, it's a great time to be quote unquote awake. I don't like that word. It means a party you throw after someone dies, doesn't it? That's more etymology, awake. But it's. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you know, who knows what's coming? Maybe telepathy, teleportation, because I just don't see how they're going to be able to maintain keeping 7 billion people's consciousness down. I think they messed up with the internet. You know, I think the internet back in the good old days when Facebook wasn't censored, you know, there was the word got out quite well then, and you know, they can't censor everyone. Yes, they're censoring people, but I think the cat's pretty much out of the bag, and I think the internet for them, I feel like it was a big mistake for them to give us that, because we've used it against them, and that's what we have to do with all these things. You know,
they had to. I think they had to. I think it's like a part of a type of a revelation where there's a period where we know that the information was there. You could then go back to natural law, cause and effect, and so on and so forth, because they don't want to be sole responsibility. The one that actions it, you know, it takes the greater effects as a universe, as a natural law anyway. You know, so if they gave you the information and said to you, look, this is what you need to do. This is the Ethernet. You know, all information's on there. Right, you had the opportunity to save yourself.
Maybe. You know? I think maybe part of it's like that. But I don't think they expected quite a kickback with the internet, because we know they put things out there, don't they? And you know, what's it called, predictive programming and everything like that. But I think you know, there's a lot of things that they bring out that sometimes we have to use against them, and invert it back, because they invert everything that we do. You know, it's like cryptocurrency at the moment. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, you know, I know that they're after a digital currency, but at the same time, there's a lot of decentralized alternative coins there as well. And so if they crash the market, which they're going to do, surely it's better to look at perhaps a decentralized coin, rather than, you know, and just use it like we've used Facebook, and to raise awareness and things like that, and YouTube, how we've turned that into a place where people can come across information. So I always think that yes, initially some of the things they bring out are maybe not good for us, but I think there is a way that we can always turn things on the other foot and use it against them.
Definitely, yeah. And I also feel as well, you see, they are running to a particular time. They only have a certain amount of time to run what they need to run at the same time, because of the rapid speed that consciousness, you know, rises now, due to certain shifts. And I mean, the frequencies that are here now that you're working with, that I'm working with, they're absolutely phenomenal now compared to what they were going back before 2012.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's going to be a very interesting few years to see where it goes. And yeah, that's why they brought the 5G in, haven't they, to try and halt that raising consciousness. But I think our own consciousness transcends all, and transcends the AI brain, the Sophia brain.
Yeah.
It's just a case of ploughing on, and day by day new stuff's coming out. It's so much fast. Just hearing you talk, you know, some of your concepts and ideas you have really resonate. And there's a lot of brilliant people out there at the moment, and there's a lot of people doing good work, and they've got the heart that want to bring this out and make the change. And you know, I think when there's enough of us, I think we can get there.
Yeah, definitely. And the work, likewise, the work that you're doing and the conversation that we're having now, it's just where we're moving towards. It's lightning speed. So we're getting there.
I mean, this kind of conversation, like 5 years ago, man, I was just waking up to the political agenda. You know what I mean? We're talking about frequencies and different dimensions, and you know, this is like this is humans in their true nature, because humans in their true nature are genius. You know, human beings were helped other consciousnesses with their own evolution before we, you know, sold our soul, so to speak. We've just descended to this point now where we're almost unrecognizable from our true selves. But humans in their true form are genius and creators of universes, probably. And that's why there's so much targeted, and not just by one entity or form of consciousness, by many different. So they're just basically, when you look at it from a bigger perspective, it's almost like having a flea on your arm and flicking it off. That's the kind of level that we're talking about. But we've been told by the flea that we're just a single hair. And we believe them. That's the biggest deception. The biggest deception was the fact that we don't have any power, and that we can't affect change. That's the biggest deception out there.
Yeah, that is
the one that everyone believes.
And it is the one, isn't it?
I'm sure you've got friends and family members, and you tell them this stuff, and they go, "Yeah, but what can I do? What can I do? It's always been this way."
Yeah,
you know.
And they almost, and that's where we say about with soulless beings, they kind of mimic the true human behavior, because then they will go as far as to almost try to put you back in the matrix, don't they? They have that program in them. They can't do it to us now, but you know the one, that program that they would have had growing up, etc. They want to try and beat it out of you, isolate you.
They get angry,
really angry.
I've spoke to family members, and you can see the Agent Smith just kick in.
Even now, you know.
It's mad, man. I mean, this world is like it's the funny thing is like, you know, you can wake up in the morning now, and you can be a unicorn if you want. You can be a female. I could wake up tomorrow and say, right, today I'm going to be a female. Feel like being a female. And the next day I can wake up and think, do you know what? I feel like being an elephant today. And like, but you know, but we're the crazy ones. You know, that all that stuff around is not crazy. We're the crazy ones for thinking things like that's crazy. And that's the crazy thing about it. So I think sometimes you just got to take a step back. And I mean, there's a lot of serious, horrible things going on. We know what's going on with the kids and the ritual stuff, and you know, that's got to end. And you know, that destroys me every day when I think about that. And you know, but I think sometimes as well, you've got to see this, as you said, you know, it's an illusion, and, you know, it's a bit of a comedy show, really, in some aspects.
Yeah. But that, on that level where because of the areas that we've been into, all of those areas, the My Labs, even the Super Soldier programs, end cultures, all of that, the RSA, you know, the ritual satanic abuse, all of that. To be honest, when you're looking in the movements now, it doesn't get. There are still many that are up and coming in other areas. They don't even know about all of that, and it's almost frightening to me that so many don't know about that now. So they're coming up. It's like, it's crazy. You need to know about those areas, man. You need to know about the missing children, etc.
Yeah, it's such interesting times. Like every day something comes up. Today I was reading something about the vagus nerve and how that's like locking some of our superpower abilities and stuff, and that's what we can do to awaken the vagus nerve through breath. And
I was listening to some of that today myself, actually. It's funny.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot of stuff coming out, which but I think at the same time we've got to be careful, and I always use the word discernment, especially when it comes to New Age teachings, because you know, there is a lot of smokes and mirrors. There's a lot of deception being put out there, and you know, to try and veer us off into a different path. So I think with everything that comes out, and, you know, always listen to that gut feeling and the belly brain, which is where your knowing and your intuition comes from. And just be very careful with the stuff that comes out. Be open-minded, but, you know, I always think, you know, just a good level of discernment is vital. So much lack of it in the new age.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that needs to be there, because the amount of metaphysical, you know, work at play, it needs to be there, because there are so many issues that happen with individuals that we have not nowhere in many respects. Even though consciousness is rising to what it is, if everything was to shut down now, and we were all to have to, you know, do it for ourselves, we would still see within normal people, day-to-day people, we would still see a massive disorganization there, and a massive need and a want still to survive, to be fed by this thing that's killing them, right? They would still want it. Many of them would cry for it and die for it. And it's so, you know, there has to be this scenario, to go back to that point, what we were talking about earlier, this singularity, this almost the organic singularity and the inorganic artificial kind of singularity almost needs to kind of take place. There needs to be, there's something we need, there has to be some movement, there has to be some give. So even out of any darkness would always be a light scenario for us anyway. So it's something needs to materialize and manifest, in order to create that little bit of shift, that little bit of push. We're just looking
and
for.
Sometimes, you know, on a wider perspective, a bit of chaos. You know, what's that saying? Where you know, growth always comes through desperation, and I kind of think that's where we're at. We can't really get much worse than things are with government and everything like that. You know, people that say there'll be chaos with anarchy and stuff. Well, there already is chaos, and you know, perhaps some people need a proverbial kick up the backside to actually take action. You know, because when you think about, and I'm sure with your own life it's been the same, because it's the same in all our lives. Our worst nightmares and our biggest challenges always end up, when you look back, to be our biggest growth spurts and our biggest times of great change, where, you know, we evolve to a greater version of ourselves. So, you know, when we're talking of chaos and everything like that, you know, it's on the surface, it's, you know, no one wants chaos, but sometimes it's necessary. And when you look at the future generations ahead, you know, I'm willing to take a bit of chaos now in order for us to learn what we need to learn, and finally, you know, understand the lesson that we're not just little me. We do have power. We can make a change, and things, we don't need to be dictated to by a parasitic, you know, psychopaths that just want fear trauma and suffering. And the sooner we realise that and challenge that belief system on a large scale, the better for me.
I agree. The better for me also, and for all of us. You know,
Yeah.
it's something that definitely needs to take place. So, a lot of your work at the moment, then, Tony, what are you currently doing at present? What have you got?
Well, I write books. I've written a few books about AI and stuff like that. And my first book was Are You Living or Just Existing? And that really is really about all the mind control aspects that we go through. But as my works, I've wrote a book called The New Age is the New Cage, and they're all on my website, transcendingtimes.org. So yeah, I write books. I do energy work. So that's all on my website as well. So yeah, I do a bit of that, a bit of this, bit of that, yeah, I just, you know, I'm just writing content and just playing my part of getting out what I know, because everyone's got a piece of the puzzle. You know, you've mentioned things today that I've thought, do you know what, that really, you know, I need to think about that. And you know, so we all have our role to play in this, and I'm just playing my role as best I can, and you know, just trying to. I've got a little niece and nephew, and I'm just working hard towards making sure that they have a better, you know, future. And yeah, so I don't live in the UK. I live out in Costa Rica, so it's a bit more of a eco-friendly place, and you know, organic food and stuff like that. So it's good to see how you know, this is affecting people over here. It's completely different over here. The people are kind of mind controlled in another way. They're very high taxes,
Right.
Very religious. It's a Catholic country, so every country has their you know, their own thing going on, and how the population is kind of kept in bondage. But yeah, it's a challenge for everyone, but you know, it's one that we can overcome.
Before we close out, is there any talk of 5G over there? What's the
Not so much. I'm still learning Spanish, but I've not seen any billboards or anything like that over here with 5G. So yeah, hopefully not. But I think, you know, eventually it's going to be across the world. So there's a lot of American expats that live here, and many of them will be, you know, because that's the problem with everyone wants good Wi-Fi, don't they? So we've kind of like hooked ourselves up, and first thing people ask when they go into a restaurant is, what's your Wi-Fi code? So, you know, I'm guilty of that as well sometimes, but you know, 5G is a bit of a one step too far even for me there. But
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, generally there's no chemtrails here. You know, I try and be very intentional where I live, because I just don't want to be poisoned. But you know, there's things going on here. It has its own problems. But yeah, so it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, Tony, it's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been a great show.
Great talking to you, man. You've got some pearls of wisdom there. Really good.
Yeah, likewise. So, guys, it's been a fantastic talk. Tony, we might have to do a part 2, possible at some point.
I'd love to, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, brilliant. You can find us, Alkalise to Realise Talk Show. I'm Fabian the Upgrade Man. You can like us, subscribe to us on YouTube, Activation of the Philosopher's Stone also, and we'll catch you on the next one. Tony, peace, love, and centeredness.
Take care, man.
See you soon.